The classroom smelled like glue, paint, and ambition. Everyone was preparing for the annual school science fair, and for 16-year-old Emily Carter, it wasn't just another competition, it was her dream. She'd spent months perfecting her project, EcoCharge, a low-cost solar battery for rural homes. It wasn't flashy, but it was meaningful. Her late father had worked as an electrician before he passed away in an accident, and Emily wanted to honor his dream of making clean energy accessible for everyone. When she plugged in her prototype, the tiny LED lights flickered to life, glowing like small promises. Her best friend, Sophie, clapped with excitement. "Emily, this is amazing. You're going to win this year." Emily smiled shyly. "It's not about winning. I just want people to see that a small idea can make a big difference." But in the back of the classroom, 3 boys leaned against the wall, snickering. Tyler, Mason, and Jake, the self-proclaimed science kings. They were popular, confident, and cruel in subtle ways. They'd mocked Emily's thrift store clothes, her quiet nature, and her weird obsession with wires and circuits. That afternoon, when the teacher stepped out for a meeting, Tyler sauntered over to her desk. "So, EcoCharge, huh? Sounds fancy," he said, pretending to examine her project. Emily tensed. "Please don't touch it. It's very sensitive." He smirked. "Relax. We're just curious." But curiosity wasn't what they had in mind. A few minutes later, when Emily returned from washing her hands, she froze. Her solar panels were shattered. Wires hung loose like broken nerves. The small battery she'd built from scratch lay smashed on the floor. The laughter behind her was soft but cruel. "Guess it wasn't strong enough to handle reality," Tyler whispered. Emily's eyes stung. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. The class went silent as she knelt to pick up the pieces. Her heart felt heavier than the broken battery in her hands. When Sophie rushed to her side, Emily whispered, "It's gone, everything I worked for." That night, Emily sat at her desk, staring at the ruined remains of her dream. Her mother, exhausted from a double shift at the hospital, came in quietly. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "sometimes life tests us right before we rise higher. Your father would have told you, don't let anyone decide your worth." Emily clenched her jaw. "But they destroyed it, Mom. I can't fix it in time." Her mom smiled faintly. "Then build something stronger. Not just with your hands, but with your heart." Those words changed everything. The next morning, Emily didn't go to school. Instead, she spent the day in the public library, surrounded by old electronics, recycled parts, and a notebook full of scribbles. She worked late into the night, powered by anger, grief, and a quiet determination that refused to die. For a week, she rebuilt her dream from the ashes. Only this time, she made it even better. She designed a version that not only stored solar energy but also converted small mechanical motion, like footsteps or bicycle movement, into backup power. It was cheaper, more efficient, and more powerful. When she returned to school, her teachers were surprised. "Emily, are you still entering the science fair? After what happened?" Emily smiled faintly. "I'm not entering for revenge. I'm entering for hope." The bullies laughed when they saw her new project, whispering among themselves. But this time, Emily didn't flinch. She had learned something powerful: when your purpose is pure, mockery becomes meaningless. The science fair day arrived. Parents, teachers, and judges filled the auditorium. The science kings stood confidently beside their flashy robotics display. Emily stood beside her humble setup, nerves fluttering in her stomach like trapped birds. One of the judges, an engineer from a renewable energy company, stopped at her table. "Tell us about your project, Miss Carter." Emily took a deep breath and explained every detail: how her prototype used both solar and kinetic energy, how it could power small homes in underdeveloped regions, how it was made from recycled parts. She spoke not just with intelligence, but with heart. When she finished, the judge's eyes glistened. "This is incredible. You've created something that could truly change lives." Tyler and his friends watched from the corner, their smirks slowly fading. When the winners were announced, Emily wasn't expecting much. She just wanted to be done with the whispers and the looks. But when the principal announced, "First place, Emily Carter, EcoCharge Project," the auditorium erupted in applause. Tears filled her eyes as Sophie hugged her tightly. Even her teachers stood, clapping proudly. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, his face red. But fate had a bigger plan. A month later, Emily received a letter from the National Science and Innovation Council. Her project had been nominated for the National Youth Science Award. She couldn't believe it. From heartbreak to hope, her journey had turned into something far greater than she'd ever imagined. At the National Science Convention, she stood among the brightest young minds in the country. When her name was called as the winner, Emily felt like the universe had whispered, "See? Pain can become purpose." As she gave her speech, she said, "I used to think bullies could destroy dreams. But now I know, they can only destroy what you allow them to. If you rebuild with courage, no one can stop you." Her words earned a standing ovation. Even Tyler, watching the event online with his friends, fell silent. For the first time, he realized how small cruelty looks next to someone's strength. Months later, Emily's project was picked up by an environmental nonprofit that funded its development for real-world use. Her design began powering small community homes in remote areas, just as she had dreamed. One afternoon, as she helped a child in a rural village light their first solar lamp, she whispered to herself, "This one's for you, Dad." The sunset reflected in her eyes, not the end of a day, but the start of a brighter tomorrow. Moral: sometimes, life will break what you build, but only to test if you have the courage to build it again, stronger. The greatest revenge isn't payback, it's success born from pain. If you felt inspired by Emily's journey, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever turned your pain into strength? And if you believe in stories that touch hearts and spark hope, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more emotional and inspiring stories every day.